a lot of the reason this is happening to me is because I'm tall and built, muscles and cool cars and, you know, smart. People don't like me. There's people who look at me and go, he thinks he's too cool. Teach him a lesson. There's a massive amount of resentment involved in all of this.
Yeah.
Even from the Matrix itself, even from we talk about the Matrix and I talk about it and people, you know, of course we compare it to the movie. But at the end of the day, there are people, moving parts in all of this. There's a prosecutor, there's a judge, there's a lawyer, whatever. Someone is sitting in an office who gets a piece of paper saying, destroy Andrew Tate. And that person looks at my life and compares it to theirs and they feel resentful. And then they go, okay, let me use every power I have to try and destroy this man.
Right.
If my life wasn't so aspirational is a word you can use, but if it also didn't tick nearly every single box in regards to every teenage boy's dream, I think that they would be a lot less interested in trying to hurt me.
Right.
They're trying to hurt me because of the things I have and what I can do. So there's a massive level of resentment in all of it. And I also think the people who dislike me, a lot of it's resentful. It's either weaponized virtue or resentment.
Right.
Especially weaponized virtue. Let's talk about that. Because whenever I have a hater online, it's funny, people who hate me in person are very respectful to me. It's very strange. Isn't it weird how the bottom line of humanity is always going to be physicality? When they meet me, they shut up.
Sure.
But
Keyboard warriors are very tough.
Of course. But online, it's very hard to say I'm stupid. It's very hard to say I'm not successful. It's very hard to say I'm fat. It's very hard to say I'm ugly. It's very hard to say I'm not charming or I'm not charismatic. It's very difficult to attack me with anything other than the fact I'm a bad person. He's all these things. He's perfect in nearly every metric, but he's a bad person.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you do that? Well, you take a virtue and you weaponize it. Misogyny, homophobic, whatever it is. They pretend they care about the subject when they don't. And they put it into a bullet and they shoot it at you. And it's weaponized virtue. It's not genuine virtue. These people who are saying I'm a misogynist don't care about women or care about combating misogyny. They just want to try and hurt me with it.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Or the second thing is genuine resentment. Yeah, I remind them of the guy who picked on them in school.
Yeah.
Or the guy who fucked their girl, took their girl off them. And they don't like me for it. But that's not my problem. That's their issue.
Are you defensive? Is there?
I really want, when I talk.
Are you open to these people?
No. And when I talk to you, I
They want you to be open to them.
This is what I think it is. It's like you are the man. It's like you are the daddy. It's just like, why are you being so mean to me? Why are you fucking yelling at me? I want you. I need you, brother. Like, show up in a good fucking way. Where are you? Like, that's what's going on for them emotionally.
Perhaps.
Yeah. And so do you have a responsibility in that place to transcend the place you are in to really fully realize your leadership? You know what I'm saying?
That's a very good question. And when I'm talking to you, I want to be as honest and vulnerable as I've ever been. I'm trying to be as vulnerable as I can be.
You're doing great.
But also, so let's talk about these people who resent me the most, or these people who disagree with my message.
What's
the
it
most.
like for you to be vulnerable? What's that word even mean to you? How do you relate to that word of vulnerability?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I don't know how I relate to the word vulnerability.
Well, you are vulnerable.
You can't put yourself out in the world like this to be seen. That is a vulnerable act. Getting into the ring with another fighter where he might kick your ass, that's vulnerable. That's intense vulnerability.
I think emotional vulnerability, nearly at every form, at every level, is basically a form of manipulation. So
maybe that's just how you experienced it growing up.
Perhaps.
Was your mother emotionally manipulative?
No, but if a girl cried in front of me, I believe she'd be trying to get an out. I don't think it's just because she feels bad. I think it's because she's trying to get a reaction from me. And I think when men cry to their wives or whatever, a lot of it is trying to inspire sympathy from her. I think a lot of emotional vulnerability to a degree
I would argue that
is all manipulation.
Like then that would indicate that in some way that you are manipulating.
We all manipulate each other.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So if you're seeing manipulation in others, that must also exist in you. And I guess that's the question. Is there a way, right? Like, can you actually not be manipulating? And manipulating is a strong word. It has a negative connotation, but like in some sense trying to control. Because one of the things that I find in this conversation, right, it's like, I mean, I actually think you're going along with my line of questioning really well. Like, you're not trying to control everything, but there is a way, right, that you have a tactic. You're trying to control things. You're trying to get away from something. You're trying to control the conversation on some level.
Of course.
But what if you gave that up?
Well, okay.
Give it up. Give it up.
I'm trying. I'm trying to be as vulnerable as possible. But when
like just the idea of it, right? Like, what would happen if?
Let's do it. I'm trying my very best. Old habits die hard.
But don't worry about the result. Just ask yourself the question, like, what would happen if you let go of trying to control everything. Just feel into what that would feel like.
But that goes back to the point about what vulnerability is, because I don't think humans are as emotionally incontinent as they pretend to be. And I believe that when you truly feel pain or truly feel trauma or something really bad happens to you, the result to that is usually silence. I don't think you talk very much at all. So people, you ask me, what is it like to be vulnerable? Well, to me, that's not crying. That's not... I think when anyone's doing that, 99% of the time, it's a manipulation tactic, I believe, personally. Maybe that's just my personal experience. But yeah, maybe. But I think especially with men, I think it's a manipulation tactic when they try and show too much emotion, and women do it as well. And I don't react very well to it. If someone were to sit in front of me and start bawling their eyes out, it's very hard to elicit sympathy from me for that reason. I feel like you get sympathy from me by sitting and explaining to me why something bad happened to you in a logical, calm, stoic manner. If someone starts crying in front of me, I feel like they're trying to manipulate me, and I don't buy it.
Or maybe you judge it in them because you judge that in yourself.
Perhaps. I mean, it's my human experience, right? And it's my bias.
Right.
But I'm trying to think of the very few scenarios in which I would ever cry. And I'm thinking, would it genuinely be because I feel so much pain, or if I think it could benefit me or help me? Would I be trying to manipulate somebody? Now, that's not something I'd ever do because it's not my personality and mental frame. But
crying is just a physiological reaction to express pain and grief that allows us to release this and to come back to homeostasis.
It's manipulation.
It's just, well, it can be.
It's don't attack me
but
anymore.
it's also a physiological response.
Oh, completely. But it's don't attack me anymore. It's I'm the victim, don't attack me anymore.
Be.
Yes, I cheated on you. It's a shield. And so when we talk about what does vulnerable mean, I feel like I'm being vulnerable now when I'm explaining things extremely logically.
You are.
That's as vulnerable as I can be. I cannot be the kind of person who's going to cry. But once again, this is my mental model. I haven't instilled.
But is that what it means? Vulnerability, cry?
I guess vulnerability.
What about admitting your weaknesses?
I'll admit my weaknesses
What
right
are
now.
your weaknesses?
Then this is so interesting because I will tell you. No, it is because I'll tell you. I'll admit my weaknesses, and I will. But now I have to try and identify some because in my mental framework, I don't have weaknesses.
Right.
So now it's like, okay, I am prepared to admit where I'm weak. Where am I weak? Well, I've tried so hard for so long to make sure I'm not weak anywhere. And